Have you ever seen a little girl bring a millionaire to his knees with nothing more than a wrench and a ring? This is the unbelievable story of how a child's courage and one mysterious piece of jewelry changed everything. It all began on Nye, a lonely stretch of highway in the middle of the desert. The sun was blazing, the road was empty, and a sleek red Mustang suddenly broke down in the middle of nowhere. Behind the wheel was Daniel, a wealthy businessman who thought money could solve any problem. But that afternoon, with smoke rising from his engine and no signal on his phone, money was useless. He kicked the side of his car in frustration, muttering under his breath. That's when he heard a small voice behind him say, "Need some help?" "Mister?" Daniel turned and saw something he could hardly believe. Standing there, wearing an oversized orange coverall smeared with grease, was a little black girl, no older than 10. Her tiny hands were already smudged with oil, her face streaked with dirt, but her eyes burned with determination. Daniel frowned. "This isn't a game. Go home before you hurt yourself," he said sharply. But the girl didn't flinch. She walked straight past him, pulled the hood of the Mustang open wider, and peered inside like she had done it 100 times. "It's the radiator," she said confidently. "If you keep kicking it, you'll make it worse." Daniel was speechless. How could a child possibly know that? Yet before he could stop her, she climbed onto the bumper, grabbed a wrench, and began loosening bolts like a trained mechanic. Within minutes, she had the problem diagnosed, her small fingers moving quickly, fixing what Daniel couldn't. He stood there, in his $1,000 suit, staring in disbelief at this little girl who worked with the confidence of a professional. But just when Daniel thought he had seen it all, something caught his eye, a ring glinting on the girl's tiny finger. It wasn't a toy ring, it wasn't plastic. It was a solid, heavy, expensive ring, one he recognized instantly. Daniel's chest tightened. That ring once belonged to his late brother, a man he had lost years ago in tragic circumstances. The same ring that had been missing ever since. His voice cracked as he asked, "Where did you get that ring?" The girl paused, her eyes darkening, and for the first time, her confident facade broke. She looked at Daniel and whispered, "It was my daddy's." Daniel's heart sank. Could it be? He leaned closer, trembling. Who was your father?" The girl pulled a faded photo from her pocket, smudged with grease, and handed it to him. Daniel's world shattered. The man in the picture was his brother, the very brother he thought had died alone, with no family left behind. And here, standing in front of him, was his niece. Tears welled in Daniel's eyes. He had spent years drowning in wealth, chasing deals, collecting cars. But deep down he was empty, haunted by the loss of family. Now on a deserted highway, fate had brought him face to face with the only blood he had left. The little girl, unaware of the storm raging inside him, tightened the final bolt, slammed the hood shut, and looked up. "Try it now," she said, with a proud grin. Daniel turned the key, and the Mustang roared back to life. But he barely noticed. His eyes were fixed on the ring, on the child, on the miracle that had just unfolded before him. Shaking comma. He knelt down to her level and whispered, "You don't know who I am, do you?" She shook her head. And then, with a trembling smile, he said, "I'm your uncle." The girl's eyes widened, her mouth opening in shock. The desert wind carried silence for a moment before she threw her arms around him. Daniel held her tightly, tears streaming down his face, realizing that the car breaking down was no accident. It was destiny. From that day forward, Daniel's life changed forever. He didn't just drive away in a fixed Mustang, he drove away with family, with love, with a second chance. And the little girl who once stood on a highway with grease-stained hands became the center of his world. And that is how a little girl, with a wrench and a ring, taught a millionaire the true meaning of wealth. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and tell me in the comments, what would you do if a complete stranger turned out to be your family?